Today I will be talking about the top 10 disturbing kids shows that aired on Nick in the 90s and early 2000s. The Fairly Odd Parents, The Same Game. So on the list at number 10 is the show Fairly Odd Parents with the episode The Same Game. In this episode, Timmy is haunted yet again by Dr. Bender. Infuriated, Timmy decides that they couldn't make fun of him if everyone had the same teeth, so he wishes that everyone looked the same so no one could be made fun of for being different. When the wish is granted, Timmy and all the people of Dimsdale become gray blobs that live in a dull world. Unfortunately, much to his dismay, Timmy realizes that his godparents are gone. They had been moved to the fairy world into a large building along with the rest of the fairies. Soon enough, the hot-headed Jorgen von Strangle reveals that none of the fairies can find their kids since everyone looks the same, and if fairies do not grant wishes, they will develop magical buildup and that eventually explode into a cloud of fairy dust, urging Cosmo and Wanda to find Timmy before all the fairies explode. At his house, Timmy is trying to find something vibrant and colorful that will get Cosmo and Wanda's attention so that they can find him. But everything he sees is gray. Later on, Timmy's mom pulls out her gray flamingo casserole from the oven, and Timmy realizes that his parents still act like their goofy selves, which would mean that his mom is still a terrible cook, so her casserole would collapse like always and turn the opposite color. In fact, the gray flamingo casserole collapses on the plate into a pile of bright pink mush. It is now that Timmy realized he only changed everyone's appearances, not their personalities, which was why his parents were still goofy and Bender was still a jerk. Timmy then rushes out with his plate full of his mom's pink casserole. Out on the streets of Dimsdale, Timmy molds the castle into the shape of his signature pink hat so that his godparents can easily spot him. He rushes around the streets yelling that he's different. Unfortunately, all the blobs easily become upset since he's no longer the same. They all decide to gang up on him. Luckily, after seeing the pink hat, Wanda quickly locates Timmy. Now spawning up from the magical build-up, Wanda urges Timmy to wish everything back to normal. Timmy then wishes for the world to be back to the way it should be. Once he's back to normal, Timmy is ecstatic to be his unique self again. This episode is on the list at number 10 because it is creepy. Just think of everyone being the same gray blob. The world would be so boring and weird if we were all gray blobs. Rugrats, what the big Number 9 is the show Rugrats with the episode What the Big People Do. So in this episode, What the Big People Do from Season 2, Episode 3, Tommy and Chucky are tired of being babies. It seems that everything they want to do they can't do because they are too little. Angelica manages to get Tommy and Chucky in trouble with Dee Dee for playing with her lipstick. Tommy says they'll be great when they are grown-ups. They can do anything and everything they want. Chucky asks what they'll do and dissolves into a fantasy in which Tommy and Chucky are grown-ups, but still with their baby heads and voices. Tommy explains that they will be able to eat whatever they want for breakfast and every meal for that matter. For Tommy, this means every cabinet in the kitchen is stuffed with dozens of boxes of Reptar cereal. The two of them eagerly gobble down bowls of Reptar cereal before heading off for work. On the way to work, Tommy drives now extremely fast but also very recklessly as well. Chucky warns Tommy that they are going to get a ticket if he doesn't stop, but Tommy says he wants to get a ticket because it's a good thing. Moments later, they are pulled over by a motorcycle cop who looks and sounds like Angelica, who tells Tommy he was going a billion miles an hour and just earned himself a ticket. The cop hands Tommy the ticket, who rapidly exclaims it's for the Reptar on ice. They arrive at the office building they'll work in. That's over hundreds of other adult babies who run around literally pushing papers around with giant brooms all day. Tommy and Chucky happily play until a voice over the intercom says the boss wants to see them right away. Tommy and Chucky nervously take the elevator up to the top floor and make their way down the hall to the boss's office, which is populated by giant portraits of evil-looking people. When they reach the office, reveal that Angelica, she is literally the boss from hell, who's much bigger than they are. She is the boss. Angelica tells them that they are not big, they are just big babies, and they are fired. At her words, the office erupts in flames, and Tommy and Chucky flee the office and run back to the elevator. The portraits come to life and try to stop the babies, but they make it to the elevator and down back now the empty lobby. But it turns out the doors are locked and Angelica and her robot minions are going to catch them. And when Tommy and Chucky sit up horrified, obviously they've been daydreaming in the playpen the entire time. Tommy and Chucky agree that being grown-ups isn't great after all, and they'll happily stay as babies for now. This episode always gave me disturbing vibes as a kid, especially with this scene.
Yes? You don't have to be so mean to us. Oh, I don't, eh? Well, let me tell you something. If I want to be mean, I can be mean. Know why? 'Cause I'm the boss! I can do anything I want! But if you don't like it, I can have you fired!
This is why this episode has the number 9 spot on this list. It always gave me scary vibes. Invader Zim, Girl goes crazy and stuff. So at number 8 on the list is the show Invader Zim with the episode Girl Goes Crazy and Stuff. In this episode, Zim decides to increase the power on Gur's behavioral modifier, which will permanently keep him in duty mode. This idea works only because Zim cranks Gur up to a dangerously high level. This proves to be a mistake later. To test Gur's newfound functionality, Zim commands him to investigate a police siren. But instead of gathering information, Gur attacks the police car and throws it to the wall of Zim's base with the cop. Mary's father apparently tied up in his own seatbelt because the cop sees Zim and Gur out of their disguises. Zim replaces his brain with that of his squids in an attempt to erase his memory and maintain their secret identities. During the memory transplant, however, Gur starts to question Zim's intelligence, therefore his authority. When Zim orders Gur to monitor Earth broadcasts, he does so only reluctantly, and even has to force himself to address Zim as Sir. Finally tired of Zim's methods, Gur comes to the conclusion that he is not utilized properly and makes for the nearest library to gather further information. When they get there, Gur is completely out of control, draining the knowledge from humans' brains and blowing his cover. Zim commands Gur to stop, but his former robot slave attacks him. Zim runs through the library trying to escape Gur with almost no help from Squidman. Just when it seems Gur is about to finish Zim off, however, Squidman somehow squirts ink into Gur's eyes and Zim is able to get Gur back to normal while he's distracted. After everything is back to the way it was, Zim and Gur take Squidman back to the sea as requested, only to get eaten by a shark as stated by Gur. Now, in the original cut of the episode, Bloody Gur is supposed to be in it. During the library battle scene, Gur is supposed to be covered in blood while floating in the data canister draining humans, which is where Bloody Gur originated from. Nickelodeon would not allow this image, so the crew put hidden images of it throughout the episode, which can be found in various scenes. This episode made number 8 on the list because Gur always gave me weird vibes while being in this state, and it's not so creepy of an episode as it is just plain weird. Are You Afraid of the Dark? The Tale of Laughing in the Dark. So at number 7 is the episode The Tale of the Laughing in the Dark from Are You Afraid of the Dark? In this episode, The Tale of Laughing in the Dark from Season 1, Episode 2, Betty Ann introduces the story before calling it The Tale of Laughing in the Dark. A teenage boy named Josh is hanging out with his best friend Ouija and his little sister Kathy at an amusement park called Playland. They arrive at Laughing in the Dark. It's a spooky house supposedly haunted by a clown ghost named Zebo, but they don't go in. The next day, they do some research on the place and discover the place's background. In 1924, a circus came to town and was set up by Playland. One of the clowns, a smoker named Zebo, stole the circus's payroll of $4,000, and when the police chased after him, he ran to the Playland amusement park and hid in the Laughing in the Dark funhouse. He almost got away with it too. Unfortunately, while hiding in there, he dropped his cigar and accidentally started a fire that burnt down the funhouse along with him in it. A little later, a new Laughing in the Dark funhouse was built with a Zebo dummy at the end. It's said in the urban legend that Zebo still haunts that place. Josh calls Kathy and Ouija chickens, implying that they believe in Zebo's ghost and are too scared to enter Laughing in the Dark. In anger, Ouija dares Josh to enter Laughing in the Dark alone. Josh takes Ouija's challenge and says that he will take Zebo's nose to mean that he made to the end. If Josh wins the bet, Ouija will have to wear Zebo's nose to school for a week. Josh enters the spook house and steals Zebo's nose, and as agreed, Ouija has to wear it. The next day, after being teased by Josh, Ouija throws it into the bushes. Josh goes to retrieve it and smells cigars. He finds nothing, gets the nose, and leaves. The audience, however, sees some cigar smoke coming from behind Ouija and Kathy's house, along with an evil laugh after he departs. That night, Josh comes home and discovers that his parents have left a note telling that they are at a theater and have left food. Josh nooses spaghetti and gets some chocolate pudding from the fridge, but drops it when he hears a noise from the closet with nothing in it. After answering a phone call from Ouija, Josh gets another one in which a scratchy voice says to him, "Give it back." Josh, thinking it is only a prank from Ouija, goes to the kitchen to find the pop spaghetti full of cigars and flip it with a Z in the spilled pudding. Terrified, Josh runs up to his room, calls Ouija, inquiring whether or not he prank called him. Another receiver gets in their conversation and Josh asks Kathy to put it down, only for Ouija to reply that his family has one phone in their house. The call is then interrupted by the strange voice, who insists to give it back, or else he'll come upstairs to take it, revealing that Zeebel's ghost is in Josh's house. Josh locks his door and escapes to the window after seeing a balloon that says, "Give it back, Pop." Josh returns to laughing in the dark, enters the last room, and returns Zeebel's nose. He apologizes, and along with a box of cigars as a peace offering, he says out loud, "Okay, I shouldn't have taken your nose, I'm sorry." He bends down and puts it on the floor and says, "There, it's all yours." Then he gets out of the humidor of cigars, opens it and shows a few and says, "And to show there's no hard feelings, look, cigars all for you." He puts them down and slowly leaves. Zeebo accepts the gift and lets Josh go. Then comes this disturbing scene. After the end of the story, the Carney of Laughing in the Dark says its signature line, "It's the most fun park where you're laughing in the dark," and smokes a cigar, proving that he may have been Zeebo's ghost all along. At the end of the story, Kristen, who is revealed to be scared of clowns, definitely tells the others that she can withstand their fear, only to get scared and run off when Eric chases her with a clown mask. As the credits begin, the rest of the group runs after the two. Are You Afraid of the Dark is always a scary show, much like Goosebumps, but scarier, and the fact there is a clown ghost in this episode is just plain creepy. Rocco's Modern Life, To Heck and Back. Next on the list at number 6 is the show Rocco's Modern Life with episode 5 from season 1 called To Heck and Back. So what happens in this episode is while Rocco is discussing Heifer's eating habits, the steer chokes on a chicken rib cage when he swallows it. As Rocco attempts to perform the Heimlich on his lifeless friend, Heifer's spirit emerges from the body and flies to heaven. He tries to fly to a big sandwich in the sky, only for his wings to melt and an anvil sprouts on his back, causing him to fall down to the ground into heck, an emphasis for the word hell. Peaches captures him and explains the 7 deadly sins of gluttony. Back at Choky Chicken, Rocco attempts to grab the chicken rib cage lodged in the lifeless steer's throat, only to fall into his body. Heifer watches a show on TV offered by Peaches of his eating habits in the past, which upset and angered others, such as Grandpa Wolf. His birthday cake, Heifer swallowed whole. The cake is later seen within Heifer's stomach in pristine condition, including lit candles. When he sees that Rocco has entered the inside of his stomach on TV, Heifer is contrite of his gluttony, and Peaches sends him to an opening light, where he sees Rocco walking. However, switches on the light of Heifer's heart. Heifer is quickly resurrected, much to Peach's disappointment. Heifer is later seen spitting Rocco out as the wallaby has retrieved the chicken rib cage out of the steer's throat. Heifer and Rocco walk out to attend the movies, and Heifer asks if the two could stop at beef bars to eat again, clearly not learning anything from his trip to heck, only to find that the wallaby is disguised as no other than Peaches once again. Later, Heifer wakes up in his bedroom to find that it was only a dream, but Peaches returns once again. Heifer then wakes up to find that he had been sleeping with his head in the pretzel box. Heifer goes with Rocco to attend the comic book sale, but not before he asks if he and Rocco could stop at Chokery Chicken first. When Karen from early in the episode comes around and tells him that she has a job interview at Choky Chicken, and Peaches appears playing with a paddleball at the end, having to start from scratch to his dismay. SpongeBob SquarePants, Squidward, and Clarinet Land. The number 5 spot on the list is the show SpongeBob SquarePants with the episode Squidward and Clarinet Land from season 7, episode 14. In this episode, Squidward and Clarinet Land, Squidward needs somewhere to store his clarinet, so he uses Mr. Krabs' old locker that SpongeBob cleans up. Squidward then goes to check on his clarinet while working due to all the noise SpongeBob is making in the locker. Squidward goes and crawls inside the locker. It is revealed SpongeBob has converted to a whole room, and the second time he visits it, he finds his clarinet gone and goes looking. He discovers a small door near the floor and crawls through it, only to enter a mysterious forest made of clarinets. He spots his just before he is picked up by a large eagle, the keeper of the Horned Forest or Clarinet Land, who tells him to learn respect and to grant peace to clarinets, that a clarinet cannot be owned. In desperation, he claims he has learned respect and tries to escape, but the eagle, the keeper, does not believe him and swallows him. It is followed by this dark and disturbing scene. Now that scene always creeped me the hell out as a kid. Squidward then finds himself chasing SpongeBob for his clarinet into a giant pinball machine, where Patrick is in giant size says it is the pressure that is doing all of this. And then Squidward finds himself chasing SpongeBob literally through space, and finally being back in the locker and running off to his presentation. Anyway, Squidward then goes to his audition, and when he opens his clarinet case, out comes SpongeBob, which sends Squidward running away in terror. This is definitely one of the more creepy episodes of SpongeBob, and this is why it got the number 5 spot on this list. Hey Arnold, the Headless Cabbie. Alright, so number 4 on the list is the show Hey Arnold with the episode Headless Cabbie from Season 4, Episode 14. In this episode, Arnold has a sleepover and tells the legend of the Headless Cabbie to Gerald, Sid, Stinky, and Harold. 100 years ago, a cabbie was driving his carriage through the park when a mysterious lady stopped him and asked him to find her lost Scotty dog. She offers her a scarf to the cabbie, who accepts. As they chase the dog through the park, they come across a man with a golden hook for an arm, and then comes this creepy and terrifying scene.
The cabbie hung onto the reins and tried to pull up his horse.
That's him! My doggy's down the hill! Go down there! Hurry! Hurry!
But the lady beat him on the shoulder and yelled,
Faster! Faster! My doggy! My little Scotty doggy!
No one saw the low branch hanging over the path until the cabbie's red scarf twisted around and caught onto it. And then, of course, it was too late. The horse kept pulling the carriage, only now the reins were held by the Headless Cabbie!
Of Harold, who was left terrified, don't believe Arnold's story until they decide to go get some ice cream and go into the park as a shortcut. They come across the same Sky dog from the story, as well as hearing some horses walking, but turn out to be Eugene practicing his clog dancing. And the man with the golden hook for an arm, who is in actuality is just a watch salesman. Eventually they come face to no face with the Headless Cabbie and the horrible ghost lady themselves, who turn out just to be Ernie and Mr. Juan. The kids are brought back home, and Ernie is just about to take off when he's stopped by a mysterious lady asking him to find her dog. This episode always freaked me out as a kid. It even gave me nightmares as a kid. This is why this episode has earned the number 4 spot. Are You Afraid of the Dark? The Tale of the Ghastly Grinner. So next, because the Ghastly Grinner is a hell of a dark episode, not to mention the fact that the Ghastly Grinner can force everyone to laugh briefly in Drew Blue's. Plus, the way he looks is just terrifying. Jimmy Neutron, One of Us. The next show on the list is Jimmy Neutron with the episode One of Us from Season 3, Episode 13. The episode starts off with Jimmy asking Libby where Cindy is. She says Cindy is at a karate convention for a couple of days. Carl comes and says that she is acting pretty weird. Just then Sheen comes along with an eerily blank smile on his face and asks if it's a happy day. He says that he watched a show called The Happy Show Show, that it's in channel 357 and that will make him happy. Sheen then walks away. Instead of watching the show, Jimmy does things on his computer, including looking at images of his crush Betty Quinlan, until Sheen keeps bothering him to watch the show by saying you could watch it the next day, or the next day, or maybe the next day. Jimmy keeps ignoring Sheen and finds himself at the candy bar, where Kyle comes up to him and asks if he watched the Happy Show Show last night. Jimmy doesn't answer him, and he sees Libby turn off some music, which is extremely unlike her. She asks him the same question. Jimmy looks and sees Butch and Bulby being friendly to each other. Another unheard of occurrence, and everyone is acting creepy and strange with eerily blank smiles. Betty also tells him he should watch the show, and so he decides to. That night, he turns to the channel to find a show made by a woman named Grandma Taters. He watches only the first 10 seconds and turns the show off and hates it. He goes to school the next day, and all the kids start to insist that he watch the show again, displaying increasingly alarming behavior. After arguing long enough, Betty says that he could watch it with her at her house, which convinces Jimmy to give it a second try. Jimmy goes over to Betty's and stops outside. He happens to look through the window to see the show on a mirror. As he watches the show via the mirror, the plot thickens as he sees the show using hypnosis to turn everyone watching it currently Freshville, but soon the entire world, into mindless, happy zombies. Jimmy is shocked to see this, and that Betty is a bit unhinged as a result. Jimmy runs home to find out that Judy and he are under the spell too. He runs into town and is surrounded by hypnotized citizens. Jimmy runs into Cindy, who has returned from her karate convention. Cindy says that she is sad that she lost at the karate competition, but Jimmy is glad that she's not happy. Cindy misunderstands this, but he tries to explain what has happened as they fortunately are able to escape. Though she listened, but Cindy got the most out of the conversations that Jimmy had gotten over to Betty's house. After Jimmy finds where Grandma Taters is, Cindy asks what he was doing at Betty's house, and Jimmy lies by saying it was for research. They heard for Grandma Taters' house to stop her worldwide broadcast. After confronting the woman, Jimmy's friends capture him and tie him to a chair so that Taters can broadcast. Cindy enters, seemingly hypnotized, but soon reveals that it's a ploy as she fights the zombies and Taters. With Taters and the zombies subdued, Jimmy dresses as Grandma Taters and restores their minds. Jimmy tells Taters that even though she meant well, she shouldn't mess with people's minds. She reasons that it was a bad idea, but then a UFO lands and 3 copies of Taters comes out to greet her. And then this scene happens.
We'll be back.
That's not nightmare fuel, and I don't know what is. That is one creepy as hell scene. Why is this episode number 2 on the list? You may be asking. Because everyone except Jimmy and Cindy in this episode acts just plain freakily, like lifeless mind control stalking zombies. Not to mention the part where Grandma Tater shows her terrifying pitch black eyes. This episode is really freaky and has earned the number 2 spot on the list. Rugrats in the Dreamtime. Number 1 on the list is the show Rugrats, with the episode In the Dreamtime from Season 3, Episode 18. The episode begins on what appears to be a normal day in the sandbox at Tommy Pickle's house after the babies watch Ant float atop a tiny stream of water. Lil asks what they are going to do next. Tommy suggests that they go to Spike's doghouse. While along the way, Chucky notices some strange things happening, like walking flowers, waving snowmen, flying toaster planes, and a man only clad in a bush. When the babies make it, Chucky notices that the doghouse is a big mansion. Inside, he notices that Spike is talking with a Cockney English accent, drinking some tea. And then this scene happens.
Talk? What's going on, Tommy? I'm not Tommy.
Chucky wakes up in his room, scared. It was all a dream. And later on in the episode, Chucky's dad, Chaz, puts Chucky into bed and Chucky goes to sleep. As soon as Chucky's dad enters the next room, he knows there's Stu in there. And then, the same nightmare fuel scene happens again.
Stu, I didn't know you were coming over.
I'm not Stu.
Chaz wakes up screaming with fright. It was all a dream. This episode of Rugrats in the Dreamtime always gave me the chills when I was younger, and it's just plain weird. It was one of the most infamous episodes of Rugrats. In that episode, Chucky is having trouble distinguishing between his dreams and reality. This results in a few pretty creepy scenes, which include a talking version of Spike the dog, and of course the famous I'm Not Stu scene that has become a viral sensation of its own on the internet. For many people, this is the freakiest moment from Rugrats, and for a very good reason. Dream sequences were not only disturbing, but just plain nightmare fuel. This is why this episode takes number 1 on the list.